next thing on the agenda, I would like to call on our speaker. I'd like to call on our first speaker. Chu is okay. Our first speaker is actually on his way. I want to believe he'll join us any moment. So in the meantime, we'll just quickly skip on to the next speaker so we don't waste time waiting for him. All right. So in the next 10 minutes, we are going to be having the honor and privilege to listen and learn from an amazing woman on the topic sustainability education in early years education. She's an early childhood educator at a non-profit organization that helps families thrive in Chicago. She holds a BA in early childhood education with a major in leadership and advocacy from National University Chicago, USA, and ISBE Professional Educators License. She's also a certified infant toddler specialist, technical assistant, and director. She believes in a family-centered and wrap-around approach that encourages the community, parents, and educators in closing the wide achievement and opportunity gap. She uses her social media platforms to educate and collaborate with teachers, parents, and the community as she aims to close the wide opportunity and achievement gaps globally. Let's welcome Mrs. Shakirat Kute. Thank you so much for joining us, Ma, please.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I do appreciate it. Thank you all so much for joining in today. I really appreciate your joining in today. I believe that it is important to always ensure that the nature, we preserve nature as much as we can. And I will be taking my approach today is going to be through the radio lens, because sustainability in the classroom is very important. And as we know, a lot of parents and a lot of schools and a lot of teachers are beginning to, schools are beginning to expand. And as parents, some of us buy a lot of toys. Some of us ensure that our classroom are expanded through the use of toys and the use of other materials that are not sustainable to the environment. So I'm going to be going with the radio lens today. As an early childhood educator, I have been able to learn a lot about the radio inspiration, because I do work with a nonprofit organization that allows me to learn a lot about different diversified to have a diversified knowledge on different things. So, but thank you all so much. Okay, so the environment is the most visible aspect of the work that I do. Because in my classroom, I have to ensure that the children have a learning space where they can explore, where they can have fun, and where they can think. And the radio-inspired approach has allowed me to be able to do this and be able to help children to gain clarity in exploring, and also allowed me to engage with families to be able to join us and be able to build our relationships. So therefore, I would start by talking first about the family and the community. A lot of families are out there who do not, I hope you're hearing me though. I'm not able to talk to myself. Okay, a lot of families are, a lot of families are out there who do not have a lot of things, a lot of finances. They do not have, the resources to even support their children at home. And our community, as we know, is a very delicate place because, of course, some are the rich, some are the poor, some are just in between. So the Reggio Emilia approach emphasizes on the natural development of children, and it's a natural fit in what I do in supporting those families in my classroom. I would like to say that our families and communities are not thriving the way they are supposed to because of the challenges that they go through. Using the radio approach has allowed me to, get into nature. It has given me an opportunity to allow, to bring the parents into my classroom. So what we do is that we always go outside and we explore. We explore outside. We look around us. What do we see that is natural, that we can bring from outside to the inside? We bring it indoor into our classroom. And then we use this opportunity to learn and to teach children. But before that, we encourage the parents to look for materials around their homes, such as bottles, such as cans, such as unusable CDs, cups, plates, cooking pans, and some other sustainable materials that they might want to kind of throw away and use it to litter the environment. We tell them to bring it into our classroom. Our children from around 6 months of age, they typically love to pick objects up and put them in their mouth to investigate, right? Some of these materials are usable materials, and we tell our parents to collect them from them and bring them into our classroom. These are called loose parts. These loose parts are ways to help children to explore and engage and diversify their knowledge in our classroom. So as we go on a daily basis, we tell our parents, come in and see how these children are using these materials. And what we do is that we provide parents with questions. We provide children as well with questions that, they can use in helping children to explore and investigate. So these questions are like open-ended questions, and children are also just coming up with their own answers. So instead of us saying, this is what you have to work with in the classroom, right? Like we providing them with closed-ended materials, it is the families that are bringing these materials into our classrooms. They are the one looking around their environment and see what fascinates them, and they are bringing it into our classroom. And this is how we foster that one-on-one experience with the parent. The parents are very collaborative in these experiences because they are following up with the process. Like it's a project, it's always like a project-based activities. When the children bring these materials, we do not give them the questions. They are the ones that bring the question to us. But because most of the time we have infants and toddlers, we allow them to explore, and we as teachers are their observers. So we observe them and to see what they are really, really interested in. The exchanges of ideas between the parents and the teachers is very essential in helping the young children to grow. And we allow them to we allow them to collaborate and keep these experiences together into one. These experiences has allowed the growth and development of the children in our classroom. When you walk into our classroom, which is like radio inspired, because we cannot deeply go into the radio approach because of, first and foremost, our climate, our weather, and some of the things that are happening around, which are unsafe and unhealthy. We allow our school our school allows us to bring in something from the outside, and we use the environment as our thought teacher, which is like, it's a radio philosophy, right? The radio philosophy allows us to know that the environment is the thought teacher, and much attention is placed into the classroom. After the children finish working with all of these materials, they are used as aesthetics in our classroom environment. So instead of you seeing too many colors that that might be too challenging for the children, especially children who might have special abilities to connect into their classroom. They are able to connect more with this aesthetics because first and foremost, we have done a project-based approach, which they are the ones who are bringing their questions, as well as they are the ones who are creating something out of all of the things that they are bringing from the outside. So we engage the children in constant remembrance and constant connection of these things in their environment. So when they go outside and they see different things that fascinate them, instead of them destroying it, or instead of them throwing it in the garbage, they are bringing it into our classroom to create aesthetics, and they are bringing it to our classroom so that we can continue to grow, learn, and achieve a better understanding of how to use these materials in a way that is sustainable to the environment. And I hope this clarifies some of the, I know that there is a lot of deep understanding, there's a lot, radio inspiration is very deep, but family and community is always very important because we are constantly collaborating, constantly talking, constantly engaging with both the children, the families, and the community. And we are constantly also telling them to bring in what they have from their family homes, their cultural values, and some of the materials that might be some of the materials that they have that they might be throwing away into our classroom. Sometimes one thing that I know that has been challenging to us in this approach is that many parents will say, this is garbage, why am I bringing it into your classroom? But we let them know that a tin, a pot, is something that you use in your natural environment. Trees are some, we stack trees, use them as building blocks in our classroom. These are not garbage. They are something that we can reuse and recycle and be able to engage with and ensure that children are learning through this approach in our classroom. So thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Ma. That was really, really a nice one. But I would like to ask, what can you hear me, Ma?
Yes.
Okay. I would like to ask, what are the competences of including renewable energy subjects in effective teaching learning process in early years education?
Okay. So many of the materials that we explore in our classroom, especially because we are infants and toddlers, we have to be very careful in ensuring that many of it are safe. However, we ensure that they are sustainable in the classroom. Many of these things are kept. They are kept and carried over. For example, we do something that is called continuity of care and continuity of relationships. So when we receive children from infancy, we are able to keep them from 0 to 5 years, especially the teachers. The teachers are staying with them between 0 to 5 years. So we carry on these projects and materials with us as we move from one classroom to another. So it's even a way of allowing the teachers to even, stay for a long time in the field, because as you know, early childhood is one of the sector that is unable to keep teachers, right? But using the approach of this project-based approach, when we go from one stage into another stage, and sometimes we even carry on these materials and our projects from the first to the fifth year. And sometimes also some of these materials are sold in big form in order to bring us in order to bring the school more finances in order to support the community and the children who are thriving.
Okay, ma. Okay, on a last note, can we say it's safe to say that since the children bring some of these so-called garbages from their home, into the school to do stuff with them? Can we say in a way we're actually teaching them how to reuse some of this? Okay, all right, thank you so much, ma.
Definitely. You're welcome.
All right, thank you so much, ma. So please, we'll come back to you later when we have further questions for you. Thank you so much for your time. It was really wonderful. Thank you, ma. All right, so we quickly move on to the fourth speaker due to some excuses beyond our control. So he's going to be engaging us on the topic policy engagement for sustainability education. In the next 10 minutes, we'll be learning how educational policies in Nigeria and the world at large can encourage and implement sustainability in our educational system. He is a dynamic and experienced program coordinator and socioeconomic researcher with 10 years demonstrated working experience in the sustainability development sector. He has a master's degree in economics from University of Ibadan, a bachelor's degree from Bafok University, Nigeria. He's a 2018 alumni of the Cox Scholars Program Switzerland. He has a rich network base from working with experts and stakeholders in government and private sectors, media and social and civil society organizations. His work covers areas like Nigeria's responsiveness to climate change, improving environmental policies, campaigns around pollution, food security and safety, as well as women empowerment. For the past 5 years, he has been the program coordinator of the Sustainable Nigeria program of the German Green Foundation. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Donald Ikenna. He will be talking to us on the topic policy engagement for sustainable education. Thank you, Mr. Donald.
Thank you very much. Good evening, Doing, and
Good
I'm really
evening.
sorry. I'm really sorry I'm coming in late. So my mind was actually fixed that the event is for tomorrow until I got an early notification. So I had to like sneak out of a few meetings, but it's really, really good to be here. If we're talking about education and we're talking about children, I mean, they are the most important thing, that life can offer. And if we're thinking about our children, we need to be really, really conscious and deliberate about it, about what we do, about what we say, about how we spend the resources of today, and how we also plan to give them an inheritance. I think one of the things that kept me as a person in the sustainability space was after I actually gave birth to my second son, and it just occurred to me that he may actually grow up not really knowing what a real fowl actually look like, or they may actually grow up and get to a point where they need to actually buy oxygen or buy a tree or actually go to a museum before they actually know what a mango tree or pawpaw tree looks like. Or they may actually get to a point where if they want to cook soup, they want to eat vegetable soup, they need to actually import ugu from maybe UK or Australia, well-packaged ugu, because our actions of today, yesterday, all points to the fact that we've been too selfish with our own generation. Our fathers have been selfish. We're also trying to play that same role of being selfish and not really planning for, what type of world would we want our children to actually inherit. So it's funny what we as the youths, the generation or the leaders of today call progress. Because if you actually put our progress on a scale, on a sustainability scale, it's trouble for what we want our children to inherit. They'll be inheriting a lot of plastic pollution all over the place. They'll be inheriting a world with a depleted sun. The ozone layer is almost gone. They'll be inheriting a world where drought and desertification is the order of the day. They'll be inheriting a world where they don't have any trees or forests. So we're giving them a world of air conditions. The only thing if they want to get fresh air, they have to actually turn on air conditions. They would be deprived of trees. They cannot enjoy the shades of the trees. They cannot guarantee the safety of the water they drink. They cannot guarantee the safety of the food they also eat. Lots of chemicals and all of that, you know, and it's going to be a paradox. I mean, it's already a paradox. It's a growth paradox that will have so much cars, so much skyscrapers, so many bridges, and at the end of the day, our life expectancy shortens the more. So it's all about the question of what have we done with the environment? How do we view the environment? Is there a separation between we and the environment? Is there a separation between business and the environment? Is there a separation between education and environment? And a quick pointer to that response would be Nigeria's NDC. Let's speak our NDC and look at what's the role or what's the magnitude of education. You know, is the education even part of the NDC strategy? You know, it's always like an afterthought. It's not a core, you know, and we're now forced to be, you know, to take self-initiative. So our first, I think she's the first speaker that spoke before me. She talked about a lot of initiative and ideas that their school has been trying to do, you know, get children involved, you know, and that is beautiful. I mean, it's trying to address the issue in, you know, tiny tiny micro spaces. And we need to see more people do more. Unfortunately, there are very, very few people or few schools, like our first speaker. There are very, very few institutions that actually do these things. And it's bad because when you don't have a lot of people thinking this way, because we'll end up getting to the edge of the cliff before we now wake up to realize that we need to start taking actions. We need to start doing things. And this it should not just stop in the school. It should also translate to the home. It should translate to the government's ministries and the agencies and how our policymakers also think. So first of all, we look at educational policies. We need to be able to, how do we even get the right policies? How do we mainstream it into some sort of framework that compels schools, that compels training facilitators, that creates a bridge between industry and schools? So already we already know that there's a huge gap between what you learn in school and what you meet in the real world. By the time they come out, there's always that mismatch. So we need policies that would start to bridge the gap between the school and the industry. So if we're looking at renewable energy, we want to cut down or pack the whole lot of the I pass my neighbor generator. How do we get more renewable energy to market women, to shops, to small businesses, to markets? How do we get renewable energy to them? How do we make renewable energy affordable? All of these things need a whole lot of technicalities, a lot of education, a lot of research. And all of those research doesn't necessarily have to start after we graduate from school. We need to be able to look at those things now. If we're talking about local content, we're talking about local contents in the industry. How do we produce made in Nigeria, you know, batteries and all of that? But do we have educational policies that's also, you know, policies backed up by, you know, the right financial support, the right government policies? Do we have those kind of localization of renewable energy solution and technologies in our learning institutions, technical schools, technical colleges? I don't know how many of them still exist, but I know in the 1990s, we identified them with their white and their black trousers, and they go to the technical schools and they learn a lot of these designs. So how well are we training them on areas of solar installations and all of that? And, you know, like I said, it's also about bridging the gap. There are a lot of individuals, you know, a lot of companies. We have Blue Camels, we have Lumos, we have GVE, a whole lot of companies, renewable energy companies, are actually doing a lot of installations and the rest of them. I would like to see a time where we see a lot of universities, a lot of secondary schools, a lot of training institutions having MOU packs with a lot of these schools, so that we could, okay, are we having problems hearing me? Can you hear me properly?
Yes, I can hear you, but I don't, maybe you should reduce the, you should increase the audio a bit.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Hello?
Yes, I'm here. Let me try to do that. Okay, is it any better now?
Yes, it's better now. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, is it better?
Yeah.
Okay. So we need to be able to see not just people taking actions, but policies that kind of like inform schools on how they could bridge the gap between industry and the schools. So policies that would say for a university, at least in a semester, you should have seminars that brings in experts from sectors, to come to the school to talk about sectorial issues. We don't have this at all. So basically, people want to do research. A final year student wants to do research, and then the first thing it does is go back to the library and look for an old research on energy. I mean, you'll find old 1772 research there. But if students are exposed to what is happening in the industry, they are meeting companies coming to talk to them, in this regards, then you realize that students are more informed. The kind of research they do, are more deliberate and up to date. There's no gap basically. And this would also make students more employable. Apart from that, also, we need to be able to see the consequences. A lot of time, people go to school, either children in primary school, secondary school, universities. We have this isolation. We're isolated from the real world. A school is like a model, but a school doesn't need to be a model any longer. A school needs to be able to reflect the society even more and help people see the problem. So we would like to see policies, or we would like to see schools taking initiatives of, showing students the implications or the impact of climate change from where they live. So for instance, if you're for in Lagos State, maybe let's say you live in Lagos State, how many students are, I mean, they live the reality, but do they even know what they need to do? How many of them see the implication of flood? What would Lagos look like in the next 50 years, in the next 60 years, when the banks are all broken? Can we actually help students or pupils actually see the different scenarios and the actions that need to be taken? Educational policies should be able to reflect these things. We don't have education as part of the Nigerian NDC, but I think it's something that it's core if we're going to address behavioral change in any program whatsoever, whether it's in clean cooking, whether it's in power, whether it's in transportation. We need to be able to inform the mind of people, in students in engineering departments and architectural departments, of that consciousness in climate change. So if we don't have this kind of policies, if we don't bridge that kind of the gap between what people are learning in school and what the world needs, then there's really going to be a huge challenge. And I think it's something that, as advocates, as civil society advocates, as those of us that are working within the environmental space, is something we should take more consciously. And for younger children, like the first speaker talked about, for younger children, these things stick and they feel responsible. I remember on one occasion, my kid was actually exposed to recycling. Since that day, he has this pack where he just puts bottles, skip bottles, and I'm no longer free to just, throw bottles out of the car or, throw it in the trash bin. I'm now conscious about, now me, the father, I'm now conscious about keeping these bottles in my car. So it's something he picked up because somebody came to school to talk to him about it. But if we don't try to see how we put in policies that would say recycling is compulsory, schools should have sorting bins. It should become a standard. Every school, whether public, whether private, part of the requirements for the schools in setting up a school, we should have waste or waste sorting facility. Just the way we say, okay, have a library, have classrooms, have learning materials. We should also have waste. How do we do waste? Access to waste, access to water, sorting materials, and all of that, because you're trying to imbibe a culture. So there are a whole lot of things that we need to really put in place. And then tree planting, how do we integrate this into policies? How do we make this part of those criteria, that students could do? So I was privileged to actually graduate from Babcock University, and one of our projects, it's for every student that gets into the school, you must do agriculture. And when you do agriculture, you must at least plant a crop. But since we're now talking about climate change, how do we now shift schools that are actually taking one of those initiatives to say, okay, look, when you enter into the school, you need to plant a tree. We could have policies like that creates that kind of consciousness. It's almost like a legacy. So I can imagine if I graduated from school in 2008, I can imagine if instead of just planting cassava, because I think I did cassava then, you know, one whole tranche of cassava, and I planted a tree in that process as part of the school curriculum as a design. What it means is I can actually go back now after close to 8 years of graduating. I can actually go back to the school and I see a tree and I say, yes, I actually planted this tree, you know, in the school compound or some designated area. So there are a lot of things that we could use education to do. We could inform the mind of children. We could inform the mind of people. We could prepare graduates to be more ready for future jobs. So in future, what type of jobs are we even looking at rolling out? In future, we may be seeing more decentralized energy systems. We may be seeing more clean energy. Today, the number of countries that are demanding from Nigeria's crude oil have reduced drastically. America has switched. They are now using shale gas. Germany, Chinese, everybody's talking about electric cars. If all of them are talking about electric cars, what it means is Nigeria's revenue in terms of oil and gas, it would almost disappear. So for everybody looking at, I want to start, I want to learn how to repair more, you know, normal traditional cars. We may get to a point that traditional cars will phase out. We want to build refineries. We may get to a point we may not need it again. So what would the world look like in the next 30, 40 years? And how prepared is our educational curriculum today to meet up with that world? Once upon a time, there was no ATM. You need a banker to sit down and be giving you cash. Today is no longer like that. So if you cannot brag about, you know, so about some particular profession because it may just change. So we need to be able to think far, think future. If no sector is doing it, education should be, educational policymakers, you know, the Minister of Education, the commissioners, owners of schools, vice chancellors, heads of departments, should be able to sit down and really project themselves into the future. The world is changing and it's changing really, really fast. And we cannot, in as much as the individual efforts that people are taking, the individual initiatives that people are taking, we need to be able to see what do we need to do collectively. The human nature is selfish. The human nature is greedy. Everybody wants to take care of themselves. Nobody wants to, let's take care of the environment later. And everybody thinks if it's the environment, we need to come together, and coming together, it's impossible. Coming together may look impossible from that individual side, but if the government, if policymakers, you know, people that design curriculums, it could be, as long as it's an institution, an organization, you could start as that group. Have sustainability policies. Universities, departments need to have sustainability policies. I don't know of any university in Nigeria that has a sustainability policy. I don't know. We have, okay, recently we're beginning to have sexual harassment policies, but I don't know if any university can say, yes, this is our sustainability policies. Can we have all of those things as part of policies for schools? Sustainability policy, how you deal with your waste. Sustainability policy in terms of design of curriculums, different departments, Department of Agriculture. In the curriculum of Department of Agriculture, what type of agricultural practices are we teaching? So what the world has started from about after the Industrial Revolution, the First World War, a lot of companies that were into weaponization, you know, chemical wars, a lot of those companies changed into agricultural fertilizers. They manufacture fertilizers, the pesticides, the herbicides, a lot of these things were once upon a time chemical weapons, you know. Today, a lot of those things are now used in agricultural sectors. You could Google, you could read your research, you would see it there. So if a lot of these companies are going into agriculture, and then once upon a time, we used to, you know, we allow nature, I mean, our ancestors, our forefathers, nature was the teacher. Nature taught them how to farm. Now we left all of that and today we're doing industrial agriculture, monoculture. Everybody's doing monoculture. What's monoculture? A lot of tilling. So we just go into a field, clear the entire tree, cut down all the tree, cut down all the grasses, burn them, allow the bush to rest, and then you start planting. That type of practice, a lot of them are found in our curriculum today. High use of pesticides, there are a lot of them in our curriculums today. The world is shifting from that industrial monocultural agriculture towards agroecology, towards regenerative agriculture, towards agricultural practices that are in line with nature, you know. So, and we have a lot of sites, even here in Abuja, in Niger State, there are a lot of institutions that are now looking at agroecology, they are planting agroecology. How can we organize excursions for schools, for departments of agriculture to bring students to come and see what agroecology looks like. How can we get our lecturers? Because I mean, the teacher also needs to know. If the teacher doesn't know, it's a huge problem, because the teacher today ends up being the Minister of Education tomorrow, and then he'll design another, let me not say nonsense.
All
But
right,
again, maybe I should stop here. Thank you.
all right, thank you, sir. Quickly,
Okay.
before we move on to the next one, I would like to ask, how can we push for policies for sustainability education in schools? Are there any steps that can be taken? Quickly, sir.
Okay. There are core steps to be taken, and I think the first one we need to do is evidence. If you want to push policies, you need to first of all show what are the evidences. What's the evidence of? Where's the gap in existing policies? How does the existing policies not meet up with what the future, 5, 6, 10 years, or even today needs? If we can identify those kind of gaps, then we need to be able to show an alternative. What should the alternative look like? There's always an example where we could learn from. We get these examples and then engage with the core stakeholders, the Minister of Education, the permanent secretaries, National Assembly members that are responsible for education, and the rest of them, and start pushing for these policies. The lot of schools that are already doing things like this, we need to be able to group ourselves. So who's doing what? You need collaboration. The numbers always count. So for schools that share this kind of sustainability initiatives, we need to be able to identify ourselves, group ourselves, and then show the world. So who are the core stakeholders that make the decision? What are our evidences? You know, what are the gaps in these policies? And then who can support us? Once we get the evidences, the research, the different sustainability scenarios, then we can start to engage these core stakeholders for the needed change.
All right, thank you very much, sir. I have a lot of questions for you, but please, let's reserve them for the Q&A session. Thank you so
All
much
right.
for all your
Okay,
said.
thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. Thank
All
you.
right, all right. All right, so quickly we'll move on to the next speaker. So to dissect the topic, curriculum integration to promote sustainable education, in the next 10 minutes as well, is a woman with the heart of gold, founder of Fatima Mulima Educational Services, which provides online tuition in all primary school subjects. She's an educator with almost 20 years teaching experience in Nigeria and the UK. She holds a BSc in Combined Science, an MSc in Medical Biochemistry, and a PGCE from University of Hertfordshire, taught in the UK from 2004 to 2013, worked as academic coordinator at Inspire Academy Abuja from 2013 to 2018, worked as head teacher at Extreme Learning Center, WISE, from 2018 to 2020. She's currently working with 1 million teachers as director of Black Belt, helping to train teachers across sub-Saharan Africa. Please welcome Mrs. Fatima Ogunjimi. Thank you so much, ma, for joining us.
Thank you, Doinsola. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining this lively discussion. A lot of things that I wanted to talk about have been raised by the previous speaker. So my topic is about curriculum. How do we integrate the curriculum, sustainable development into the curriculum? And I know the first speaker, she was talking about how from a young age in preschool, they start getting children to be comfortable with nature. She spoke about the child-centered approach and the project-based approach. And the last speaker was talking about policy change and how can we make sure that all the universities, not just one university or one school or one nursery school, is teaching sustainability education. How do we make sure that all the schools in Nigeria are applying sustainable education? This will call for a big policy change. And I think the last time we had this was in the 70s or the 80s, when Obasanjo was the head of state, and he brought in the universal basic system of education. And that's when we changed to the 6334 system from the previous system. So it's going to take people in government to change the policy, and it has to be based on research. You know, when we talk about sustainable development, like the example that the Sustainability Hub lady gave, that there was a man who was crossing a bridge but started destroying the bridge so that the sun that was coming behind him could not have access to this bridge. So when we talk about sustainable development, we're talking about meeting our own needs. It's an idea that in human societies, we meet our own needs without compromising the ability of the future generations to meet their own needs. So this man, by destroying the bridge, was not helping the upcoming generation to create, to be able to cross the bridge. So that's what sustainability is about. But in our education system, how do we create an environment where learners are encouraged to think? Like Shakira said, in their class, the children bring in things, the children ask questions. We need a curriculum that encourages problem solving, that encourages critical thinking, encourages collaboration. These are the 21st century skills. So Nigeria as a country has to include the 21st century skills in its curriculum. If we include the 21st century skills like critical thinking, problem solving, collaboration, citizenship, then we will recognize that we have a problem. We have climate change. Do people know about climate change? Do they know that by using firewood, they're depleting the ozone layer? That by cutting down trees and not planting a tree, they are not being sustainable? So yes, education has a huge role to play, but who dictates what we teach and how we teach? I'm involved in a teacher training organization, and in our teacher training, we teach the 17 SDGs as part of our teacher training. How many teacher training organizations in Nigeria teach the SDGs? And one of the SDGs is quality education. So in order to have quality education, we have to have quality teachers. So we have to start from the teacher training, and then we have to go into the content of what we're teaching. Are we going to school to learn, just to cram information, just to learn facts, or learning how to solve problems and learning how to deal with the issues we have? Are the things that we're learning, are they relevant to our society? So the whole system will need, the whole curriculum will need to be changed. And there are two ways of doing this. It's either sustainable education is integrated into the subjects. So for example, if you're studying biology, you have to know the effects of land pollution, of water pollution, of air pollution. Or if you're learning geography, you have to know how what each country is contributing to the ozone layer depletion or the carbon emissions for each country. So if you're doing chemistry, how do you measure the air pollution? If you're doing mathematics, can you calculate the carbon emissions for each country? Or we can have a thematic approach. So say, for example, our theme this term is going to be climate change. So all the subjects that we're going to teach this term are going to be related to climate change. So in English, we're going to be writing stories about how we can improve our environment. In geography, we're going to be learning about where our country is in terms of climate change and global warming. We're going to learn. So in each subject, we link it to climate change. Or we can have a theme about the rainforest and how to sustain the rainforest. So the whole idea of sustainability has to be integrated into everything that we do. And like I said, this can only come from the government introducing the environmental studies or sustainability education into the curriculum and revising the curriculum that we have now. The curriculum that we have now is outdated in so many ways, but how do we update our curriculum to meet the needs of the society now? When you talk about sustainable development, you talk about society, you talk about the environment, and you talk about the economy. So you can't have a government that is only concerned with the economy, because if you just consider the economy without thinking about the impact that the economy is going to have on society and on the environment, then you're not being sustainable. So to incorporate sustainable development into our curriculum, we have to change the way we behave. We have to change the way we think. The knowledge and skills that we're gaining at school should also include things that will help the environment. So if you're an engineering, if you're into engineering, how can you change your curriculum to be more sustainable so that what you produce, so for example, the previous speaker was saying maybe we will not be using diesel cars or petrol run cars in the future. So they're producing electric cars. So the mechanical engineering department is now working to produce a sustainable cars, sustainable machinery that will be friendly to the environment. And so what about people in ICT? How can they produce something that is more sustainable in ICT? And we go on to all different areas of study. So it's not something that, oh, we're just going to go to university and study sustainable development. No, sustainable development needs to be incorporated into all subjects across board. Or like I said, in primary schools, for example, when we're doing our thematic planning, use themes that will encourage children to think and to think about solutions. We have this problem of flooding, for example. What is the solution to our flooding? What can we do? Oh, did you notice how people are throwing garbage in the gutters and blocking the drains? So how can we solve this problem? How can we educate society? We also need to transform society, but that will come with a big change in the way we think and the way we do things and the way we learn. You know, we need hands-on learning. We need child-centered learning, like Shakira said, the kind of learning where the child, everything we do is evolved around the child. So how do we change our curriculum to be more child-centered, to focus on gaining 21st century skills, to be a curriculum that is environmentally friendly? It has to come from the top. It has to come from the government. So we need to speak to our representatives in the government. If they see that there is a problem, there is an issue, how can they then talk to the policymakers in education to change the policies, the current policies we have on education that haven't been reviewed in the past 20, 30, 40 years? How are we going to push for a review in the educational curriculum so that our curriculum includes sustainability and sustainable development? We need to change the content of our curriculum. We need to include sustainable education in every subject. Like I said, I gave some examples. We also need to think about our learning outcomes. What do we want to get as the end product of what we are studying? Is the outcome a reality? Does it relate to what we need in our environment, in our own environment in Nigeria? What we are studying at university or at school, what impact is it going to have on the environment? And how can it make our society a more sustainable society? in every single subject that we do. So that's why I said it has to be looked on in a holistic way. It's not curriculum change is not about just changing the biology curriculum or just changing the science or the chemistry curriculum. It has to be a holistic change in the way we think. The whole way we think about education needs to change. The whole way we deliver education has to change. The whole way teachers are trained needs to change to include all these factors, because the environment that our parents left us is not the same environment that we're leaving our children. So many things have changed, and we need to do something about it, and we need to do something about it fast. But unfortunately, we tend to only act when things have gone wrong. So when we see the flooding in Lekki, then we know that, oh, the sea levels are rising. What are we going to do? You know, what are we going to do to prevent this flooding? Every year during the raining season, we have flooding in Nigeria. So what are we doing to prevent this flooding? What are we doing in our education system to learn about some of the causes of this flooding? How are we educating our children so that they become responsible, reflective adults? What knowledge and skills are we giving to our children? And education should be something that changes the behavior and attitudes of people. If our education is not changing the behavior and attitudes of the society, then it hasn't fulfilled its duty. So our attitude towards the environment needs to change. So many people are still burning firewood, even in areas of Nigeria that are being you can see the desert encroaching. In the part of Nigeria that I am, in Sokoto, we can see that the desert is encroaching, and yet majority of households still burn firewood. And yet we have the other extreme in southeastern Nigeria, where gas is being flared, natural gas is being flared off. Why can't we have natural gas for every household in Nigeria? Why are we burning it and throwing it away? Why do people feel so comfortable to throw their pure water bag or plastic bags? You go to some parts of Nigeria and the whole place is filled with refuse. And yet the state government doesn't arrange refuse collection regularly, so people don't know how to deal with their waste. Simple things like dealing with waste. So our education policy has to cater for our needs. Like I said, we have to teach in our schools, in our universities, 21st century skills that will solve our problems and help us create a sustainable environment. So the curriculum, like I said, the curriculum integration has to be a holistic approach that touches every subject and every sector of education. We had somebody talk about early years, what they do in early years in America. What are we doing in our early years? Just teaching them to know to be able to recite their numbers up to 100, and they can do this and they can do that. You know, we need to change the way we children learn, and we need to change the way we teach as teachers. So in our teacher training, we are in the teacher training organization that I work for, we are changing the way that teachers are being trained, and we are changing the way that teachers think. So there's so much to do. It's not just giving somebody the curriculum if their way of thinking is still in the 19th century. So you need to change the teacher's attitude as well. Our attitude to learning, our attitude to the environment, how we teach. Let children learn how to do things. You know, like I said, we need hands-on learning. We need learning that solves problems. We need graduates that are critical thinkers that can solve society's problems. So there is so much to do with the curriculum integration. The whole curriculum, the whole teacher training curriculum, primary curriculum, secondary and university curriculum. For us to be sustainable, it needs to change. We need to change the content. We need to change the learning outcomes. We need to change the pedagogy for the teachers. What is teaching about? What is teaching and learning about? What do we want children to learn at school?
All right, thank you so much, Ma. Thank you so much. We have a lot of questions for you, but please, we'll reserve it for the Q&A session. So I would like to call on the last speaker so that we can take all the questions together and then round up from there. Thank you so very much, Ma. We appreciate you, Ma.
Okay.
Yes, Ma. All right. We'd like to call on the last speaker for this session, and I'd like to call on our speaker. He will be educating us about the potentials of art in promoting sustainability education, the importance of art in learning and creativity. He is the principal consultant Creative Mind Educo with over 5,000 members on WhatsApp, with the aim of supporting teachers and professionals worldwide in their efforts to craft educational environments where adults and teachers thrive. He is a talented and dynamic motivational speaker who is experienced and enthusiastic. He studied arts and early childhood education at the University of Lagos and later proceeded to study fine arts in the University of Benin. He is an art educator, artist, researcher, trainer, and learning environment therapist and focused creativity educator par excellence. His enduring passion for education knows no bounds as he constantly seeks for an effective reformation amongst the educators. He ensures this by embarking on delivering training programs in the area of creativity, innovation, practice in education, and teachers' competency. He has developed, conducted, and managed research in the fields of design and artistics and the effects on learning to use interdisciplinary approach. He is currently representing ILETS Group Sweden. He teaches creative arts, and consults at the Supreme Education Foundation. Please welcome Mr. Ebenezer Odetola. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us.
You're welcome, sir.
Hello. Mr. Ebenezer. Mr. Ebenezer, are you with us? Hello?
Yes, can you hear me now? Yes.
Yes, we can hear you. Yes, we can hear you. Welcome, sir. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, ma'am. Good evening, sir. Thank you very much for the introduction. So as I was told, I'm going to be talking about the art for sustainability education, and I'm going to be dividing my topic into about 4 parts. I'm going to be talking about how teachers can use art to inspire learners in the classroom, and also how teachers can also use art as teaching aids in the classroom, and also how art project language classes can teach social justice and environmental education. So as I said, my name is Odetola Ebenezer, and I want to quickly talk about a little thing before I talk about this topic. I remember as a child, art was something that we do talk about almost every time. Art is what we even see art. We see art almost every day. But there's something I observe right now. What I observe is that the art is lost even in our curriculum and also around us. I remember as a child, nobody taught us how to make boats. I remember you remember those boats that we normally make when it is raining. I remember you also remember we do make kites. And I know that if I ask you now, when last did you see anything like kites on the street, on the sky in Lagos and wherever you are? I'm very sure that you will tell me you've not even seen any of those things at all around. And I'm also sure that some of those things that the children normally make use of papers around them, like recycling and more, those things are actually lost in the curriculum. They are lost in the environment, not because of technology alone, but because of lack of interest and also lack of people who can actually do a continuous education towards those things. So, as I said, the arts should not be neglected in the classroom, and the arts should not be out of the curriculum in the classroom. When too many people talk about why the art is neglected in the school, the major thing they make use of is that why, because art is expensive. There's improvisation in art, and then because it's expensive, improvisation can actually come in.
Sorry, please. Sorry to cut you, Mr. Ebenezer. Please, the audio is breaking. We can't hear you properly.
Maybe let me just remove the earpiece so that we just talk louder. Can you hear me without?
Yes, we can hear you now. Yes.
So
thank you.
I was talking about how arts has actually influenced our childhood experience, and I talk about how we use arts as a playway method to actually engage when we are small, making use of boats, using kites. Even some of our parents, our brothers, really help us in those days.
Hello, sir. Sorry again. It's still not okay. It's still not okay. We can barely hear what you're saying. Hello, sir. Are you still with us?
Okay, I think he's trying to log out and then log in again. Maybe that would help the audio quality.
Okay.
So maybe we could do some question and answer while he comes back in.
All right. While we are waiting for Mr. Odefola to join us back, Mrs. Fatima, please, there's a question on my mind I would really like to ask and really get to know. Can you hear me, ma?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, you said one of the major ways we can improve we inculcate sustainability into our educational system is first the way we think and the way we behave. Can we say it's okay to say this sustainability education is a work of the government, the parents, the pupils, in short, the work of everybody? Can we say that?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, ma. So sorry, Mr. Otedola is back. So let's get back to him and then we'll return back to the question.
Okay.
Thank you so much, ma. All right, Mr. Otedola, you're welcome back. Hello, can you hear me?
Can you hear me clearly now? Yes, I can hear everybody.
Yes, we can hear you now. We can hear you.
Okay.
It's perfect
So
now.
as I was actually saying before, that the art is somehow lost in the curriculum. The art is also somehow lost in our homes and our environment. And then why is it like that? Maybe because of a lot of us focus more on technology than the art. And the technology itself is also art. There's no how you want to use the technology without making sure that you actually add aesthetics to it. Talking about the first thing I'm going to talk about today, which is the art as the use of instructional material in the classroom. There's no how that you want to create an instructional material in the classroom without making the instructional material appealing to the senses of a child. I remember as an NC holder, when we are doing our teaching practice, I remember that those days we normally hold a cardboard, and then those cardboards serve as instructional material. And without those cardboard, I remember then that the way you are going to be insulted is going to be something very big. And then I remember that those cardboard were not very interesting to the child. It's just a plain cardboard, and the cardboard is just like, okay, I'm in the classroom today. This morning I'm going to be teaching you this, so this is what I'm doing. This is that, and more. But in these days, we have gone beyond just using a cardboard as instructional material, but it has now turned into a kind of using the environment itself to create instructional material. As I do say every day, that the learning environment itself it should not just be seen as a vacuum. It should be seen as an instructional material. And one of the way I've actually used my learning environment to actually inspire teachers and also to inspire learners is by creating aesthetics around the classroom. aesthetics that serve as instructional tools rather than just aesthetics for aesthetics' sake. But a lot of teachers don't really understand that it is not all about just creating just, how will I put it, aesthetics that will just be beautiful. Or let me put it this way, there's a quote by a man called Steve Jobs. He said that design are not what it looks like. Design are not what it feels like. He said design is how it works. And I do advise every day that design in your classroom is not how it looks like. The design in your classroom is not how it feels like. The design in your classroom is how it works. How do you use your design in the classroom? Design is art. Art is also design. And there's no how you can design something for a child without the child actually seeing it. You know, design is something that you can see. And I believe that when we design anything in the classroom, we should make sure as much as possible that our design teach in the classroom. Like I do advise, when I come into your classroom should teach on your behalf. When I visit your classroom, I should be able to see what you are teaching, or even, if possible, for the whole of the 3 weeks around the classroom. So many schools I consulted for in Lagos, by the time we resume the first half term, there should be a kind of a sense of belonging in the classroom. There should also be a kind of the curriculum in visual in the classroom. And you remember that when we talk about a lot in the classroom, okay, I'm standing at the front of the classroom now, I'm talking about fraction, and then we are writing all those formula in the classroom. I'm drawing them on the board in the classroom. And by the time I clean the board, what will that child be seeing continuously to remember fraction? What are those activities we have actually imbibed through art that will make that child to remember some of those things you have taught in the classroom? I've actually put some of those things. I wish that I actually use slide. I will actually show you some of those ways I've used my interdisciplinary art, which is making sure that art is being integrated into all disciplines to achieve an involving curriculum. What do I mean by the involving curriculum? Involving curriculum in such a way that math is not just standing on its own. English is not just standing on its own. Art is not just standing on its own. Music is not just standing on its own, but connecting everything together to create an involving curriculum. So at the end of the day, when a child is coming to art class, it's not just coming to art class to come and learn art, but it's coming to art class to come and learn an extension of what he has been taught before. Like last week, I was in a class on Monday and Wednesday, and then what I taught them in the classroom, they taught them the teeth, which is the fraction, which is under science. And then what I did was to bring out my art through the use of the teeth. And at the end of the day, we created craft, and then the children get to see. Even some of them were even asking me. They said, one part of the teeth is missing. They mentioned the name. They said something is missing, this and that. I was like, yes, now they are seeing it in visual. As if they, it is not even instructional material this time. It is now they are involved in the creating of this object itself that is called teeth. And at the end of the day, when children manipulate objects, when they are involved in the education, they tend to remember some of those things for life. When you are involved in the process, you will remember for life. Likewise, when you do, you will never forget. So I do advise every day that anything you do in the classroom, make sure that there's a project attached to it. I love when the previous speaker talks about thematic curriculum, whereby there's a team attached to what we do in the classroom. And then through the art can make sure that some of these things come into reality. The whole of the environment, when we talk about a thematic curriculum, should be interpreted visually by those teams, one after the other. I remember one of the schools I worked in Bagada, there was a time they were talking about animal, and then all the classes were divided, were given topics according to different animal. The first class was giving aquatic animal, scaly animal, and the other one were giving animal that have gone in extinction. And that was when I got to understand that there are so many animals that were actually existing before on planet Earth that are not actually existing now. The children color, the children create on the board, their thematic board in the classroom, that the children will be seeing the process at which some of these things started from the beginning to the end. By the time they go through the corridor, they will see another thematic according to the theme again. And each class, the entrance of each class, they have a board that talks about their theme. And at the end of the day, they call the children together. The children will do a presentation. And also, you know, visual is actually something that we can never take out of our curriculum. And the visual as a way of actually staying in our mind for a very long time. If you remember, during the election in 2015, visual was very needed. Even on our internet, they use visual for their poster. On the street, they use visual for their poster. For a lot of advertisements out there, there are a lot of visual. Those visual are what they use as a sort of remembrance towards their product. Likewise, in our classroom also, those visual which serve as instructional material are what we use to make them remember what we are teaching in the classroom. So I've actually talked about how we can use the art to actually bring out our thematic in visual in the school, and also for instructional material. There are so many ways that we can use art as instructional material. I have different types of instructional material in the classroom, but before I start, let me talk about what I call the instructional material in the classroom of today. They are actually divided into two, or let me use the word about 10. The first one in the first category, they are all called display. Anything we have in the classroom are called display. And then what are display? Display are instructional tools that are used to actually to actually send message to children which convey the curriculum. So in the classroom, I'm expecting that by the time I come into the classroom, I should be able to see something that talks about science. I should be able to see something that talks about literacy, numeracy, and some of those subjects that are being taught in the classroom. And there are also other things that are meant to be in the school. I have what I call this child-centered display board. What is the child-centered display board used for in the classroom? Any project done by the child should be on that board. Anything like celebrating the child should be on that board. There's what we also call the seasonal celebration display board. Anything like celebrating the season, like now there's Easter in the corner, there should be something. If your school is not a religious school, religion-based school, there should be something related to Easter in your school. And then if you are celebrating the International Women's Day, there should be something that talks about that in the classroom. It can be at the reception of the school. It can also be in the classroom. There must be something that the children will see, that they will get to know that yes, this thing is actually going on in the classroom. We have the memory board. What are the memory board for? There are so many things that some of these children in the classroom sometimes want to be reading, want to know, but those things are quite very much. We have the likes of them in terms of multiplication table, formula, wow word, and more. Some of those things sometimes can actually be created on the board in such a way that the children can be seen continuously in the classroom. And also we have the word system. The word system are just like the kind of a board that we use to reward them, rewarding good character, rewarding most improved in the classroom and more. And also some of these things, they come in visual. There's no way you can actually use some of these things without making sure that they come in visual. Visual make the children appreciate them. And then also these children are visual learners. There's no how you can talk from morning to night without showing them visual. Imagine as I'm talking to you right now, and there's a slide alongside what we are saying. You are going to enjoy it more because we are going to be seeing what I'm actually telling, what I'm actually teaching you through that visual. And I'm going to recommend you can go on my YouTube channel. There are a lot of videos there, both technology video and also the art video that you can watch again and again to actually learn some of those things I've been talking about. And also, technology should not be neglected in our classroom. And then there are so many ways I've actually integrated technology and art in the classroom, whereby if I create a board and the board talks about recycling, maybe the recycling is a project that we are talking about, and then I want the children to also go more on internet to see a lot about recycling. Or maybe when their parents are coming, when their parents is coming into the school, I want their parents to actually see the board and create an extension out of that board. What do I mean? If you go to ShopRite or any of those stores, they scan some of those things that we buy. There's a way that you can create a board and create a barcode. Create a barcode on each board, and on that barcode, you will have actually dropped a lot of messages. Maybe you are talking about digestive system, and then you want the children to watch a video on digestive system, and you have actually created a chart that talks about digestive system. So you can create a barcode. How do you create a barcode? You can go on Play Store, download barcode scanner and generator. So you are going to use that barcode scanner and generator to generate a barcode, and at the same time, that barcode, you can also use that same application to also scan a barcode. So with that, the children can now interact with their display board, and then also technology is actually added to it. Another thing I'm going to talk about is by making sure that the art also is part of what they do in and out of the school. If you observe very well, some of these children at home, they have a lot of art around them. As I am talking to you now, okay, maybe because I'm an artist, there's a painting at the back of me. But if you check, there is no home without a picture. There's no home without a picture, whether the family picture, whether the child's picture, whether the wedding picture, and more. Some of those things are there for aesthetics, are there to block a space, and are there to also educate us. So as much as possible, let's try our best to make sure that the learning environment and everywhere around us has some art that the child can see and also can learn from. So the last thing I'm going to talk about is the interdisciplinary art, creating projects out of art, because the project itself, the children need art-based projects. The children need art-based projects. Let me talk about what happened in one of the schools I'm actually working last week. They were surprised that I said for the whole of this term, I said that we are not going to be drawing with the use of paper, because the children knows that when I use the word we are going to be drawing today, they are expecting me to bring out a paper and then they will start to draw. I said, no, today we are going to be making use of Microsoft Paint to paint, to draw. And at the end of the day, I send videos to them how to use Microsoft Paint. And then the children were like, I think you are an artist. I told them, no, the art is an extension of so many subjects. Through the art, you can understand so many subjects. This is why every day, if I meet a lot of leaders out there, I do tell them, we are not training these children to become an artist. We are training them to be creative in what they do. We are training them so that by the time they see anything that is art related, they'll be able to appreciate it. They'll be able to even do, they will be able to do at least justice to talk about it also. I remember someone who went for an interview, and it says that just because they taught them origami when they were in school. What is origami? Origami is the folding of paper to form a picture. Some of those planes that will form, some of those airplanes that will form, some of those boats that will form, they are called origami. He said he went for the interview and he forgot to come with envelope. So he needed to just drop a small letter to them. So he decided to just he said, okay, can you please lend me just one A4 paper over there? And then they lend the guy the A4 paper, then he just fold the paper and form an envelope. So how will you be able to solve a problem instantly without a lot of solution around you? Improvisation. Art
Thank you
itself
so much,
can be
Mr.
used to what? Can be used to actually create a lot of problem solving. And then by the time a lot of these children also graduate out of school, they may find themselves in some art related job. In these days, some of us, when we study something else in school, by the time we graduate, we can find ourselves in another type of job. And know how you can do it. There will be art attached to what we do, even in tech,
All
even
right.
marketing that we do in the
All
school.
right. Mr. Odetola, I am so sorry for cutting you short. Honestly, it's been an interesting time. Like, I don't want you to stop talking, but we just have to stick with time. Honestly,
Yeah.
it's been a very, very interesting one. I've learned so much. I've reflected on a lot, and sincerely, it's been really, really nice. But before you go, please, I would like to ask this question quickly. How effective is the Nigerian teaching aid in arts for sustainable education? Please, in just 2 minutes, please.
In just 2 minutes, and I will just tell you that in private school, the private sector are actually trying. Maybe let me use the word 35% for private schools, because there are still so many private schools that are not actually informed about the goal and the role of art in the education system. Not just to use as instructional material too, but also to create a lot of project-based activity. But in the public school, I will tell you maybe just about 5%, because I've been to a lot of public schools for a lot of projects, and I see that the art is actually missing. And so many of those students, they are very creative. I'm a product of public school. I know what I've actually done in my school. When I was in my school, we draw on the wall, we draw on the decks in the classroom, and then it shows that there are some potential in us that need to be developed. So the public and the private school need to actually bridge those gaps if possible.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I hope we have another forum where we have you, where we talk basically about this. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you
Thank
so
you
much.
very much.
All right. So quickly, Mrs. Shakirat, are you still with us? Hello. Okay. I think the network is bad. All right. Mr. Donald.
Yes, I'm here.
All right, sir. I didn't have the opportunity to actually ask you. So, like I said, so what policies can we push to get teachers in the secondary system to start advocating for sustainable energy in schools, especially in Nigeria? Because it seems to be a very difficult task. So what policies do you think maybe the teachers can work with within their schools or their local environment and things like that? Thank you.
Okay, so I think it's how will I put it now? I think after listening to is Israel? Israel. I think
Yeah,
after
yeah.
listening to him about using art visualization, I can't really specify or pick out what a
That's
specific policy should look like. But in the generic sense, I think we need to also look at what is available to us and what we want to, what we want to pursue. It has to be, a lot of these things are country specific. What are country specific issues? What are country specific challenges? What type of resource and information it's available to us? So if we're looking at what type of information is available to us, then we're talking about what is currently happening, what is happening in the industry. So I think the first point would be teachers need to advocate, find a meeting point between the teacher and environmental experts, between teachers and people in a particular set of environmental consciousness. So for instance,
okay.
we would like to see more teachers try to meet with environmentalists, sector experts, people that are experts in renewable energy, people that are doing one or two things, because the curriculum needs to be fed by what is practical, what applies to us. It doesn't make sense if we try to, let's say for instance, teach children about addressing nuclear energy. If nuclear energy is not maybe our thing, I'm just giving an instance. Okay, so it's about for us to develop a curriculum, it needs to be fed by experts in the sector. So I can't really say this is the one advocacy we should do. It's a little bit of everything, but it starts with, we need to be able to bridge the gap between people. Environmentalists, recyclists, people that are in recycling, people that are in afforestation programs. We need to start with excursions. It's about ideas. Let's start with ideas first. Excursions to those kind of issues, small initiatives, and then if we can come together, we can now say, can we make this a standard? When he was talking about public schools also, then we start to think about how many public schools also have access to electricity. If we're going to promote computer, I mean, the COVID-19 has taught us that, look, we need to have more computers in school, ICT and the rest of that. For us to do that, we need to have electricities in classrooms. If we need to have electricity in classroom, especially the public schools, then we need to be saying what type of classroom, even the design of primary schools, minimum standard for design of public schools. Can we mainstream clean energy, clean renewable energy as part of that? In the design of the schools, can we make sure that trees are available in school compounds to make sure that the temperature, the microclimates around public schools are not too hot? When environment is hot, students can't even learn properly. They get tired, they drain up. So can we make sure that, look, the classrooms are built in certain ways? If we can't say, okay, the policy should say they should be air conditioned, it should be properly ventilated with trees. These are policies. So teachers in public schools can start to advocate that, look, we need trees in our schools. The government should provide trees, 3 beds in school compounds, so that it would help the environment of the school, the learning environment, because the government would say they don't have money to provide air conditions in all public schools, but you can provide trees, so partnership, trees. solar systems in public schools so that students could then have access to computer and learn all the wonderful things that Mr. Israel have also spoken about. So it's a little bit of everything, but it starts with putting together somewhere.
All right, thank you so very much for that, sir. Thank you so much. This session has come to an end, and I would really like to thank our speakers. Mr. Donald, thank you very much for joining us, sir. Mrs. Kuti, thank you so much for joining us. Mr. Israel, thank you so much for joining us. And our mommy, Mrs. Fatima, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for your time. Thank you for everything that you've done. We also like to thank our participants, everyone that has contributed in one way or the other, your questions, with your suggestions, with your recommendations. I want to say thank you very, very much. And we would love to see you some other time. Thank you so much. And bye-bye. All right. And the recording will be sent to everyone that participated. Thank you so much for everything. All right. Bye.
Bye.